Hi. So what we're going to focus on in this program is what I consider to be the basic way to repattern any habituated pattern. When I say habituated pattern, I don't just mean smoking or biting nails or things like that. I mean habituated patterns of thought, habituated patterns of feeling, habituated patterns of behavior. This is really about rewiring your brain. That's what self-directed neuroplasticity is. It's a very long-winded way of saying you can use your conscious mind to begin to actively rewire your brain. Your brain is always wiring and rewiring itself every time you learn something new. This is just a way of being a lot more strategic with it. So some of what you're going to learn is different ways to interrupt patterns. So when I say interrupt patterns, I mean in the moment where you get triggered, and when I mean triggered, I mean you feel the craving, or you feel the impulse, or you feel the compulsive feeling that makes you do what you don't want to do. Whether it's the coworker who every time you see them or you hear their voice, you get that feeling. These are all habituated patterns because anything done with repetition creates a pattern in the brain. It creates a neural network that can become very tightly grouped. So it really becomes almost a default position in the brain. And this is the way to change it. So this program takes, as I said, a lot of the ideas from the current research in neuroscience. It is also really a way of condensing the work of Dr. Jeffrey Schwartz. He has amazing programs that he has developed through working with people with obsessive compulsive disorder. He's got a few fantastic books you might be interested in reading. The first time I read about his work, it was in his book, The Mind and the Brain. But there's more user-friendly books. If you're interested, you can read Brain Lock or You Are Not Your Brain. His work is amazing because what it does on so many levels is it validates the work of me and my colleagues and what we've been doing with NLP, with hypnosis, with coaching the unconscious mind on many levels. We can now see through Dr. Schwartz's work what is actually happening in the brain. So let me back up a little bit and tell you a little bit about that so you have a better understanding of what you're going to learn today. Okay, so Schwartz took, as I said, a bunch of people with obsessive compulsive disorder, and he first put them in a brain scan and had them think about their trigger or be re-triggered, and he looked at what was happening in the brain. Now, I could go into all the cool aspects of, the different areas of the brain. Let's just call it the uh-oh center. So the uh-oh center of the brain is that they feel something is wrong, right? So there's that part of the brain that tells them something is wrong, and then that is actually connected to the part of the brain that is connected to your gut feeling. So not only do you think something is wrong, but you feel it. And that's why obsessive compulsive disorder is very hard to for people to treat. So what he did was he showed the patients their brain scans. And he said, do you see this area that's overactivated in your brain? So these urges you have, whether it's to wash your hands or lock the door for the 150th time, where you really feel something is wrong, this is just your brain. It's not you, it's just your brain. It's got into this overactive pattern, and we need to break that pattern. So just by showing them that, and then he gave them a 4-step process. Now I'm not going to go too much into it except to say the gist of it is, as soon as they would start to feel their compulsive feeling, they would say to themselves, okay, I'm feeling this feeling. I get it. It's not me. It's just my brain. It's just my brain doing its thing. It's just my brain giving me wrong signals. And then they were to do something else. So whether that something else was exercise, listen to music, gardening, these are some of the examples his patients chose. Then from that position, kind of reassess and say, yes, gardening or listening to music is much better than washing my hands, and which, unfortunately, when an obsessive compulsive individual actually does the thing they're compelled to do, it only feels better for about a minute, and then they have to redo it. Okay, so they get that, and they knew that they were caught in this cycle. So by doing these 4 steps, they were able to segue out, and from segue out, reassess, right? Then in about 4 to 6 weeks, I forget how much time went by, they re-examined the brain in the brain scanner, and they saw that these people had absolutely rewired that whole pattern. And what was really cool is that they kept it going. So they didn't revert back. Once they understood how they could rewire the brain, the compulsive tendencies got less and less. Now, in my work, I teach to my students and I teach to my clients a 4-step process for change. And it basically follows the structure of Dr. Schwartz's work, but my clients don't have to white knuckle it. You see, that one of the things in Schwartz's work was that he didn't really give them the techniques that you're going to learn here. He just had them go listen to music, and that they had to do for at least 15 minutes, and some people had a hard time doing that. The techniques you're going to learn are designed to stop it. So whether it is a feeling of anxiety or anger or even depression, feeling sad, these are all habits once you've done them again and again. Or whether it's a craving, to eat something you don't want to eat, to smoke something you don't want to smoke, or to do something you don't want to do. That too is something that I'm going to teach you to stop that craving, stop that urge, stop that habituated pattern. So once you do that, you're going to begin to understand that as soon as you can segue out of a craving and into a much better state, and many of the techniques you're going to learn, they access the parasympathetic nervous system, which is really just the relaxation response. So that once you can start to go from a state of craving or a state of anxiety or a state of compulsion to one of relaxation, you're starting to really branch out neurologically. It's kind of like you're stimulating the circuit that is involved in that habit, and we get the neurons stimulated, and then we introduce them to relaxation. Or we introduce them to a more open focus state, or we introduce them to laughter, depending on the technique. So my idea for this class is to really, in a very short period of time, arm you with the skills that you need in order to break any habituated pattern. And they will always follow this 4-step structure, so that I know that if we were to scan your brain and look at the neural networks that light up when you're doing that habit, whatever, once again, that habit is, and then you follow this protocol, in a few weeks, if we were to look at your brain, we would know that you were rewiring. Now, you'll know without the brain scans just by how you feel. All of a sudden, you'll find that you're just not getting triggered in those old situations, that you're just not having the cravings in the same way. So a lot of these techniques will literally take away a craving. They will thwart anger and anxiety on many levels. So then we're going to go into, excuse me, then we're going to go into how you can begin to program in what you want. So I called this program Self-Directed Neuroplasticity because to me that's really what we're doing when we're doing successful change. And I want you to be able to change yourself, okay? There's no side effects here except learning some techniques. So that being said, let's learn a few, okay? So we'll start with the quickies. Basically what I want you to do is play along with me. And when I ask you to access a feeling, really do access it, because some of these techniques just seem so simple and almost silly that if you're just watching me do it, you're going to be like, what? That can't be true. But if you feel it, because I've been teaching this for many years, and I teach groups anywhere from 10 to 200, and I've never had someone not respond to these techniques. Sometimes you need to be a little more persistent, but basically within under a minute, you will stop the anxiety, you will stop the craving. So play with me here. And what I want you to do is take a moment and pause this video and find something that you can pass back and forth. You can be a water bottle, it can be a pen, it could be your keys, it could be whatever's in your pocket, or it could be a ball, it could be an orange, it could be an apple. It doesn't matter, okay? So take a moment and go get something. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to take a moment and I want you to access the thing you want to change. Now, whether it's anxiety or whether it's a craving, take a moment and really think about being in that situation. I'll give you a moment. And notice where it is in your mind from 0 to 10. Right? From 0 to 10, where is the intensity level of that craving or of that anxiety or of that fear or anger? Okay? You got it? Now follow me. So all I'm doing is passing this ball or whatever you're holding back and forth. Make sure you cross the middle of your body, and that's all we're doing. The reason this works is because anxiety and cravings are primarily on one side of the brain. It's an overactivation. By doing this, you're stimulating right brain, left brain, left brain. And by stimulating both areas of the brain and sending a lot of activity through both hemispheres, you'll find that that anxiety circuit or that craving just kind of gets neutralized. For me, this kind of feels like a neutral position. I'll be doing this and all of a sudden, I'll sense when it drops. So take a moment and just check in. Notice where it is, notice how you feel. A lot of people will say they just kind of feel a little bit more balanced, but they don't feel that craving or that anxiety. If there's still a little bit left, just do it again. Once again, this can be your keys, this can be anything, as long as you're crossing the midline of the body. This is called bilateral stimulation, and it really works. I teach this to kids, so if you have kids that get a little nervous, my daughter, when she was in 4th grade, taught this to her whole class right before taking the state-mandated tests. And I still get emails from the parents thanking me many years later. So bilateral stimulation, it's an easy one. Play with it. Okay. So the next technique I want to share with you is really easy to do. And you can do it anywhere. It's one of the techniques that I tend to utilize a lot because it stops internal dialogue. And when you don't have internal dialogue, it's really hard to keep that anxiety, that craving, that anger, that frustration, whatever habit you're breaking right now, whatever habit you're addressing, it's really hard to keep the triggering process going without internal dialogue. So this technique is interesting to do, a little bit strange, but works anywhere, okay? So what this is stimulating the peripheral vision. When you slip into peripheral vision, you access, once again, the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the relaxation response. And you also create a very interesting state of mind and body. So what I want you to do is I want you to keep your focus on me and keep your eyes on me, and now begin to expand your awareness. So you'll be expanding your awareness to, I guess, the edges of the screen that you're watching. Expand your visual field, your peripheral visual field, so that you become more aware of the expanding space around you. What I want you to do is to begin to become more aware of the edges of your peripheral vision. While you're still training your eyes on me, reach out peripherally as if you could reach for the space behind you. And then bring it back into focus and just take a moment and notice what you notice. We're going to do this again. Most people report that because their awareness is externalized, their awareness is out here, they're just not thinking any thoughts. And that's the reason why I'm teaching this. It gives you that pause. Remember, with the obsessive compulsive patients, all they had to do was say, it's not me, it's just my brain. It's not me, it's just my brain. That was designed to give them that kind of step off, that pause, right? What we call that dissociation. But this gives you a pause and then an entry into a really nice, calm body and mind. So once again, focus on me, keeping your eyes on me. And now expand your peripheral vision. Become aware of the walls on either side, the ceiling above you, the floor below you. Really reach out as much as you can peripherally, stretching it out as if you could be aware of the space behind you. And bring it back in. Play with it. That's all I can say. This one, it's a skill. And the better at it you become, the more you're going to start to utilize it just walking down the street. You know, whenever I'm walking down the street or in the subway or wherever, and I find myself ruminating, and I just need to step off it, I will, you know, focus on the back of the person's head in front of me as I'm walking and become aware of all the space around me. It really is a wonderful way to just shift out of the craving. So if it's a craving for a cookie and you don't want to be eating cookies, if that's your thing, then the cookie becomes the focal point, and then you expand out. And you'll realize you can walk away. If it's the cigarette becomes the focal point. Got it? So some people, if they're claustrophobic, the elevator door becomes the focal point, and they shift out, and they're able to then get into the elevator and ride up. You'd be surprised how useful this is going to be for you. Okay. So we've got two. We've got bilateral stimulation. This is, you know, an excellent way if you're starting to feel anxious, starting to feel a craving, starting to feel some of that old response that you want to change, just side to side, right? Or just expand peripherally. Now let's learn another. This next one is really like a power tool for me. It's a form of EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, but it's the short and fast version. You can learn more about this from going to fastereft.com. This guy, Robert Smith, I think that's his name. He has hundreds of videos for you to follow along with online, all for free. So it really is an excellent technique. It has never, in my office, not taken a craving away. And it really is good for any emotion you want to change, any physical symptom you want to change. So let me just explain it to you. So we start off with a nice anchor. And the way that we do that is I want you to take a moment and close your eyes. And I want you to allow yourself to think of something that makes you feel peaceful. Think of somewhere you like to go, whether it's a vacation spot, whether it's somewhere in your mind, whether it's a meditation you've been in, or maybe the end of a yoga class. But as you close your eyes and begin to conjure up this feeling of peace, hear what you'd hear if you're there, and feel what you'd feel if you're there. Take a moment to really immerse yourself in that feeling of letting go, that feeling of peace. And as you're feeling that feeling of peace, I want you to now open your eyes. I want you to grab your wrist like this. Take a deep breath in. Exhale nice and slow. And say peace. Once again, you grab your wrist like this. Deep breath in. Exhale nice and slow. And say peace. What we've just created is a kinesthetic anchor that is good for any time you need it. So sometimes you'll be sitting in that boardroom or sitting somewhere where, you know, the tapping points are slightly inappropriate, and you'll just grab your wrist under the table and just and think peace. And you'll get a nice wave of relaxation. Once again, this is a way to interrupt any habituated pattern. You have to understand that in changing patterns, if you think about going down the old road, you know, feeling that craving and smoking that cigarette, right? You're going down the same road, the same neural pathway. If you want to think of this, it is a metaphor, by the way. You don't have a neural pathway like that, but think of it like that. What we're doing is, as soon as you start to feel some of the anxiety or some of the craving, we're putting up a roadblock. What that does is it forces the brain to go here, to detour here, just not here. And we'll be starting to create new patterns. So even if all you can do is grab your wrist, peace. You've started to instigate the pattern, you put up the roadblock, you segue into a different, more relaxed position. You're already starting to allow those neurons to make friends with other neurons, to make connections. They love connecting. So let's give them something positive to connect to. So now for the rest of the process. But once again, that too can be a standalone pattern interrupt. Remember, we just need a pause. And if we can pause and segue out, we'll start to rewire the brain, and it doesn't take very long. Some researchers will say just interrupting it 3 to 6 times is already creating a very different neural signature. So the rest of the tapping points for faster EFT, and if you want the longer version, which I was teaching for many years, which is a really great process, just go to free, FREE.com. That's Gary Craig, the creator of EFT. That's his website. There's also another one called EFT Universe. And all of these websites have a wealth of information for you to mine and go deeper with this process. So once again, this is faster EFT, and I want to show you the points, and then we'll have an experience of it. Okay, so the first point in faster EFT is right here. It's kind of the third eye, in between the eyebrows. Second point is on the side of the eye, then under the eye, then right here. It's kind of like the collarbone, but I just open-handed thump it so I get both sides. Whoops. Didn't realize the microphone was there. Okay? And then peace. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to take a moment and access something. Maybe think of a specific thing that you want to change, right? So whether it's the cravings that you're working through, or whether it's the anxiety or the anger or the fear, you can think of a specific memory that, in this way you can use it as a test case. I'm an experimenter. I don't believe anything anyone tells me until I feel it time and time again, and I experiment with it for months before it becomes part of the techniques I share with my clients. So really, you know, be discerning here and test it. So if you're testing it, what I want you to do is think of a specific memory, a specific moment in time, maybe where this particular person got you angry. So take a moment and access it. Really imagine being there. Really, and then where is this feeling in my body? This is the first step, right? If I'm thinking of anger, where do I feel it? Okay, I feel it right here. All right, and now follow along. And I just say, I release and let this go. 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 Peace. And just check in. Notice what you're noticing. Most people will say it's almost like that thing they thought of is over here. Most of my clients will show me that they've dissociated a bit. It tends to give you a more objective view. You'll kind of say that person's messed up, but at least it's no longer in your body. Now EFT says that we are manipulating the meridian system, right? So these are powerful acupuncture points. That's why we're tapping on them. Now, whether or not that is what's happening, I can't be certain, but I do know that we're sending counter impulses to the brain. Peace. And that it has a very interesting effect. Play with this one. This has the potential to change your life. It certainly changed mine. I used to have chronic pain. I used to have migraine headaches for my whole life. And it was this technique that I kept using on not just the pain, but some of the emotions that I was not expressing. That too, oftentimes, will cause pain if you are incongruent. And for me, being incongruent means not speaking my truth, not saying what I feel. So I am disturbingly honest simply because I don't want to have a headache. And that's how this technique helped me. It also, the first time I tried it, took away a severe dental phobia that I had, which was nice to get rid of. So please experiment with this technique. Once again, it's just another pattern interrupt, but it really has the potential to shift many things for you. Do a little research. Okay, I could go on and on, but I really want to keep this short and concise. So hopefully you will take all of these techniques and explore them individually, because they're very cool to know. And if you're a practitioner and you're watching, this is really, just so many great ideas for you to start to play with, as well as the entire system to deliver to your clients, because this builds resiliency, and that is one of the best things we can do with our change work. So let's learn another one. Let's see. Here's one that is a really good way. It's kind of like my easy pass to meditation. I have no patience for long, meditative practice. I know that that's something I will be working on because I do know that, the research is in and your brain benefits on many, many levels, as does your emotional reactivity when you have and cultivate a good meditation practice. But this is an easy one for me to do, and this is my form of meditation. And it is also, once again, an excellent pattern interrupt. You can read more about this technique at heartmath.com. These guys are doing amazing research on heart rate variability and heart entrainment and coherence. And what that means is that basically by focusing on the heart and doing this breathing technique, if I were to hook up your heart and your brain while you were doing it, you will see that they begin to synchronize, that the heart wave variability and the brain wave start to synchronize. So they say that the heart has entrainment properties, meaning it can entrain the system. Now it's also hooked in to the vagus nerve, which is the feedback loop. It goes, from the brainstem down, it connects through the lungs and the heart and your digestive system. So it's a really nice way. One of the things that people are starting to realize is that the body can only heal itself and only repair itself when it's in that parasympathetic system. So when you're stressed out and you're having chronic stress and there's cortisol pumping and adrenaline pumping through your system, a lot of things go offline in order to get you out of danger. And that is all the systems in the body that deal with healing. So all of these techniques, although I'm teaching this to you to break habituated patterns and interrupt trigger moments, all of these techniques are really good in teaching you how to cultivate that relaxation response so that you can heal from things faster, that your body works the way it was meant to work. Your digestive system, your endocrine system, your nervous system really benefits from all of these different techniques. So this one is simple, okay? What I want you to do is I want you to take a moment, we'll practice this a couple of times, and then I encourage you once again to practice this on your own whenever you need it. So if you're starting to feel a craving or starting to feel anxiety or starting to feel that triggering moment or just need a moment to relax, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to bring your mind to your heart. Simply bring your awareness to your heart as if you could focus on the area around your heart. And what I want you to do is imagine breathing through your heart. So some people, it's really about visualizing energy moving in and out through their heart. Some people just feel a sense of movement as they keep their mind focused on their heart and they breathe normally and naturally. And some people, they find that if they put their hand over their heart, it's easier to keep their attention there as they breathe. So in whatever way this is going to work for you, to just keep focusing on your heart breathing in and out. And when your mind wanders, as it almost always will, you bring it back to your heart and breathe. And just focusing in whatever way you choose to envision this. And your mind wanders, and you bring it back to your heart and breathe. And if you do this for even a minute, you will notice an entire relaxation in your body and mind. It really is an amazing way to shift out of an unwanted emotional state and into something nice and relaxing. If you do this for 5 minutes, then you're really relaxed. I teach this to people when I'm helping them to overcome sleep issues, because if you can do this in bed for 5 minutes, what's happening in the brain is that you're already starting to go into an alpha brainwave state, and some people will dip into a theta brainwave state, which is on the way to delta, which is deep sleep. So it's really a good one to play with. Once again, heartmath.com will give you a bunch of different cool ideas of how to use this. They've got some great books which will teach you some of their other techniques as well. So once again, let's recap, all right? So we've got this idea of how to rewire the brain. And the main thing we have to do is interrupt the pattern. And that means anytime you, whether you feel the urge to bite or feel the urge to smoke or drink or whatever it is that you want to stop doing, you feel that urge and you either do bilateral stimulation, or you feel that urge and you just slip into peripheral vision. Or you feel that urge and you notice, where is it in my body, and you tap it out. Peace. Or you feel that urge and you drop your mind to your heart and breathe. These are all amazing ways to begin to interrupt the pattern. Now, the next phase, once you've interrupted the pattern and you're sitting in a much better emotional, physical state, the next phase is to say to yourself, how do I want to feel instead? How do I want to feel instead? So if I was feeling anxious and I did this and now I'm feeling relaxed, if I was feeling anxious because I have to get on an airplane and maybe I'm not that crazy about getting on an airplane, then I would think about getting on the airplane, tap away the fear, and then from that pause position say, how do I want to feel instead? I want to feel relaxed. I want to feel excited about where I'm going. I want to feel comfortable. And then I talk myself into this state. So what's it like when I'm comfortable? What's it like when I'm really relaxed? And as I'm feeling this, now I imagine getting on that plane. This is a way to start to rewire how you feel when you eventually get on that plane. Or you can use this in real time if you're at the gate and you're starting to feel nervous. So I'm starting to feel nervous. Okay, it's here in my body. I'm going to release and let it go. Release and let it go. Release and let this go. Peace. And maybe I have to do it twice in order to feel really relaxed. And how do I want to feel? I want to feel this relaxation, but I also maybe want to feel some excitement. And what's it like when I'm feeling excited? I kind of get this good feeling. So I'm relaxed, but I'm excited. And I kind of memorize it. It's as if I put on the cloak of relaxed excitement. And now I can board the plane. And if I sit down in the plane and maybe there's some turbulence, what can I do? I can do bilateral stimulation. What can I do? I can drop my mind to my heart and breathe. What can I do? I can expand into peripheral vision. These are all techniques that are portable, easy to take with you. But the key to rewiring on many levels, besides just interrupting, if all you did was interrupt and go into a better emotional state, each time you felt that craving, you will rewire your brain. I'm just now taking it one step further and programming in what you want now. And that's where how do I want to feel instead really comes into play. If you can really own this this system and start to really choose how you respond and react in different situations, then to me that is personal power. You know, I have this lofty goal of eventually being absolutely in charge of my emotional state. In other words, not giving my power to anything or anyone. I'm nowhere near there yet, but at least I have the tools that help me to get there. So this is self-directed neuroplasticity. It's the real short and dirty version. I have much longer versions of this. I've got my whole anti-anxiety toolkit, which is now an online training. It was 3 classes. It spanned over 3 weeks, and it covers all of these in depth and then a lot more techniques. I also have for practitioners, for coaches, for therapists, for anyone watching this that does change work with people, healthcare practitioners or mental health practitioners, I have Coaching the Unconscious Mind, which is a 4-day coaching course that really teaches you how to not only rewire the brain and all of these different techniques for how to do that, but how to begin to set up multi-level communication with your clients and how to really start to speak to the unconscious mind and listen for it as well. So I have much longer systems if you want to go in depth here. I have a brand new book out in about a week, which should definitely already be out by the time you're watching this, which is called Keeping the Brain in Mind, Practical Neuroscience for Coaches, Therapists, and hypnosis practitioners. And that's where I really do go in depth into some of what is happening in the brain when we do our change work, as well as different ways to actually use that, to know how to stimulate different areas of the brain if you want people to remember or to forget, and some cool demonstrations in the book as well. I do have a little anti-anxiety toolkit book that's quite popular, which covers these techniques as well if you want them in written form. They make good gifts to those family members. So there's my pitch, and I hope you enjoyed this program, Self-Directed Neuroplasticity. Take charge.